Here's a 2-2 pitch now. Got him on the inside corner.
Framber, you all right, kid? You're all right. Way to grind it out. Way to show some heart out there, taking a fastball directly down the middle in a crucial World Series game. God, baseball is so much better when pitchers are hitting. Now, this clip that you're watching right now is of the other pitcher that had to hit, and he plays in the National League, so he might get a few competitive ABs throughout the year. Tucker Davidson, nah, he looks just as bad, but thankfully, Robert Manfred has all but confirmed that the universal DH is coming back to baseball in 2022, along with doubleheaders being 9 innings once again, and also the runner on second rule going away. I'm telling you, 2022, we're going to see some growth in viewership in Major League Baseball because it's going to be way more fun to watch. Now, if you're a baseball purist, my sole objective of today's video is not even to convince you fully, but to even get you 10% in the other direction, that having pitchers pitch and having hitters hit is actually the correct way to play baseball. Now, of course, there are going to be people like this Twitter user right here that says you are not a baseball player unless you can do everything all at once, even though a lot of these guys that are full-time pitchers have not been hitting since high school, when their high school coach said, hey, we don't want you to get injured, so don't take any batting practice, do not hit whatsoever. You are what's called a PO, a pitcher only. And we expect them to magically learn how to hit once they're in the big leagues facing 98 sinkers. It doesn't make sense. But with the recent news of Buster Posey retiring, and in my opinion, retiring early at 34 years old after coming off an MVP year, hearing what he had to say, it really made me stop and think, if the DH was in the National League, would Buster Posey have retired this early? Because you could see in his eyes, the guy was hurting.
And to be honest, it's hard to enjoy it as much when there's the physical pain that you're dealing with on a daily basis. I halfway joke with our training staff about being done 5 years ago, but I don't know how far of a stretch that's really off.
A recent debate that has sparked on social media is Buster Posey versus Joe Maurer. A lot of people are saying that Joe Maurer is going to make the Hall of Fame because he crossed that 2,000 hits threshold. But a lot of people are considering that Joe Maurer had almost 310 games as a designated hitter compared to Buster Posey at 31 games. So would Buster consider playing going forward if the DH had been a thing and he was able to really take care of his body and not catch every single inning of the season? Honestly, I feel like he would still be playing if the universal DH was a thing 5 years ago. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some stats real quick across the game of baseball. So in 2020, the first year that the universal DH was adopted, designated hitters combined for a 101 WRC+. If you guys did not know, 100 is considered average. So they were technically above average, and they had a 24% K rate, but it's better than a 108 batting average combined from starting pitchers in 2021. And oh, you like sabermetrics? Okay, batting average doesn't matter. Fine, I'm with you. Try having a negative 22 WRC+ and a 45% strikeout rate from starting pitchers over the course of 2021 in the batter's box. And Max Scherzer is currently 0 for his last 50-ish, maybe even 60-ish at-bats. Max Scherzer, he's been in baseball for what, 11, 12 years? He should know how to hit, but he's 0 for 60. What are we doing? Okay, so let's recap that real quick. Starting pitchers in the batter's box in 2021 hit 108 with a negative 22 WRC+. 2021 designated hitters combined for a 250 batting average with a 110 WRC+. It is time to retire starting pitchers hitting in the National League. The universal DH, it needs to come back, not only because pitchers suck at hitting, but because of these other factors. Factor number one, why the universal DH needs to make a comeback in 2022. Pitchers, they have to avoid getting those knick-knack injuries in the batter's box as well as on the base pass. Jacob deGrom was having one of the best seasons in baseball history on the bump, and he missed a significant amount of time due to a shoulder injury that he suffered while hitting. Jacob deGrom missed time as a pitcher because we are living by archaic rules that forces that pitcher to be in the batter's box. Even though we could pay someone like, I don't know, Nelson Cruz, Kyle Schwarber to do the hitting part so Jacob deGrom, a world-class pitcher, can focus on pitching. It's like rocket science. I can't believe we're even talking about this, right? Again, I'm sorry if I'm coming across as condescending, but I'm I'm done with this. I need the universal DH in my life more than anything. Now, not only is the universal DH going to help out pitchers, but it's also going to help out the older superstars in the game of baseball, aka Albert Pujols. So Albert Pujols, he's past 40 years old. A lot of people say he's even older than his actual age is showing. That's a different story for a different day, but we can extend the shelf life of Albert Pujols because in 2021 against left-handed pitchers, he had 13 home runs, a 940 OPS, and 136 ABs. So essentially 1 every 10 at-bats versus lefties, Albert Pujols was going yard. That is elite. He is still really good against lefties. So if he can be a DH for the Dodgers against lefties and Max Muncy can still stay in the lineup, that is going to be fantastic. That is going to not only extend the career of Albert Pujols, but also guys like Nelson Cruz, who has been a menace to baseballs for the last decade. Guys like Freddie Freeman, who as he ages, I think because he's so tall, I'm not sure if he's going to age as gracefully, but if he can be the 2028 DH for the Atlanta Braves, I don't see why that's not a big time plus for the game of baseball. Freddie Freeman, a face that brings viewership to baseball, is still playing because he can be a full-time DH or sporadically. Sign me the heck up. I don't get it. And the third factor, in my opinion, is that it just makes baseball a better product. Now, a lot of people would say it takes away from baseball because the strategy has gone away, where let's say that your pitcher is dealing into the 7th inning, but you're down by a run. Do you take out your pitcher or do you leave him in and you hope that the lineup behind him can have his back and actually put the ball in play and score some runs? I fully understand that, but I don't know about you guys. Looking at the 2021 Mets, they could be one of the biggest beneficiaries of a universal DH, just like they were in 2020 when that lineup kind of went off. But then in 2021, they had to deal with Pete Alonso and Dominic Smith shuffling around, playing some really poor defense. Pete Alonso, honestly, yes, he makes a flashy play every now and then, but he is one of the worst defensive first basemen that I've seen since Ryan Howard. So if you can DH Pete Alonso every so often and plug in Dominic Smith at first base and shuffle around that lineup, I really think that is going to be a better product of watching baseball. I mean, don't ask me, ask Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine a few years ago when they said that offense, aka chicks dig the long ball, that's what drives the game of baseball. Now, 3 players I want to mention in specific, not named Albert Pujols, that could really benefit from the universal DH. 1, JD Martinez. I would love to see him on an NL team helping out in that department, whether it's the Phillies, the Cubs, the Giants. I would love to see this happen. So he's 35 years old. Let him go to an NL team and have him be a DH. Would you not want to see Kyle Schwarber on the Padres or on the Marlins, a young and up-and-coming team? You implement a veteran bat in Kyle Schwarber. You don't have to play him in the field. All he is going to do is rake and rake. I would love that. And last but not least, Nick Castiano, who just opted out of his contract with the Reds. He is now a free agent. If we allow the universal DH to come back to baseball, instead of being able to choose from 15 teams, he is going to have the entire landscape of Major League Baseball to assess his situation, say, hey, the Phillies, they're not the best team, but if I can DH for that lineup, they're going to be really good. And also Castellanos, he just brings a Philly ethos, and I think that he would be a perfect fit, but because he's not the best defender, when you combine that with Bryce Harper not having the best defensive season either, the universal DH can save us from these problems. Well, if I did not convince you, I tried my absolute best. I felt like I brought up some pretty good points considering in 2020 and 2021, combined, designated hitters were light years ahead of what pitchers did in 2021 with a paltry 108 batting average and a negative 22 WRC plus, where the average WRC plus is 100. I mean, when you're striking out 50% of the time. Max Scherzer, who has been with the Nationals, so obviously he's been in the batter's box for a good chunk of time, is going 0 for 60. That's just bad. It's just bad for the eyes. And when I say eyes, I mean the future generation of baseball. We want to bring viewers and not have them tune into a random game. John Lester strikes out on 3 pitches and they're like, what am I watching? No, instead of having John Lester for the Cardinals in there trying to hit, you'd have Paul Goldschmidt, who was DHing and saving his legs, and we're extending his career. It just makes too much sense not to bring it back. Well, that does it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you did enjoy. I kind of like getting passionate and going on little mini rants. So yeah, that does it for me. If you agree or disagree, let me know your reasoning in the comment section down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Loaded up, 2 outs. And he got him. Boy, a promising start to the inning.